This is where it all started happening here. Today's cooking project was trapped underneath this very deck here. And these three Westies trapped our meat and chased him down to the pond down in here. Alright, let's go to the garden to get some special seasonings. Be followed by my wife and our lead gardener around here, Nicole Ruble. Here's a outside view of our garden here. We're gonna go in my little gate that I made, my little rustic gate. Follow our lead gardener, Nicole, my wife. There you go. There you go. All right. Everybody, let's go in the garden. We'll pick out our special herbs and seasonings for today's project and vegetables.
Come on in.
All right, let's go here. Now what do we have here that we think is going to be tasty here? Let the master gardener show you how to do it. Mila, do you?
And here's more of our kale.
Okay.
That we're gonna put in here.
Okay. All right.
I got it. It's a little tea. This smells really good for soup.
Got a little chive here. All right, Mila, get ready. Mom's gonna hand you some for you to put in the bowl.
There we go.
All right. What else do we got? We have chive. We have some basil. We have some basil we can get. Okay.
Here's our chive.
All right. Let's cut some basil.
Here's our chives right here.
Okay.
Here you go. Okay, put it in the bowl. Mila!
What are we grabbing right now?
Yeah, she's ready for you.
It's oregano.
Okay.
Thyme and rosemary.
Okay, let's get a little bit of that thyme. Let's put a little thyme in there. Put a little bit of that thyme.
Mila, do you want to put that on the bowl?
We got some.
Caleb?
We got some rosemary.
What's this thing right there? Oh, just mud.
Okay, we got onions that we're gonna put in.
Get onions. Yeah, put it in.
Okay. All right. Let's follow our master gardener. Or let me get out of the way here.
If you're gonna edit me out of this, then why are you recording it? Shut it off.
Okay. Now we're over here in the squash. Here, getting a few little yellows.
Here's a little yellow.
Little one. All right. Let's put it in our bowl. So we've got two piles of wood out here. This is our pine, which cooks a little bit hotter and a little bit longer. And then we have some kind of lighter wood and things that we've picked up around the farm here. We had our fire ring last night where we were making some s'mores and things there. So we got a little bit of coals going on there. We're going to go ahead and get everything set up here, but want to give you an overview of what we had: our pine and our lighter wood. Got our cooking table over here by our pond and our beach. Let me go ahead and get this set up here and then we'll continue. Okay, so I'm going to have my assistant come help me. We're going to get our fire pit ready here. Fireproof gloves on. Safety first, folks. Safety first.
Yeah.
We'll move our fire pit down here out of the way. Here's our cooking set up here. We're just talking about getting everything set up, Ava. We're going to put our lighter wood in here first. Alright folks, we've got a grate set up, we've got our wood in here, now we just need to get this stuff rolling here a little bit more. So we're just going to put just a little tiny bit of lighter fluid on this. Just a little bit here. Safety first, folks. Don't do this at home unless you're a trained professional like me. All right, that didn't work very good, so we're gonna get something with a little more horsepower. Folks, this is definitely not recommended unless you are a trained professional such as myself here. But that lighter fluid didn't quite get this going as good as we want, so we're just gonna add just a little bit of gasoline on it. Just burns slightly higher than that lighter fluid. We're gonna go ahead and start putting just a couple pieces of pine in there. All right, folks, we got our fire going. We're gonna let that go ahead and cook down here, and we'll go work on part of other parts of our project. Folks, here we're going to show you where this groundhog has been living, or hopefully we think this is the groundhog. He keeps digging holes here. I've filled them back in. I sent that son of a bitch a eviction notice several different times, and he apparently can't read or take a hint. We don't want him messing up our foundation of our barn here, so we took care of the problem. Here's another spot where that groundhog likes to come in here. We got all of our electrical, and of course some genius decided to put the hydrant right here too, and he's been in here chewing up wires and things, and just couldn't have him do that. It's kind of darker in here, but we've got a little kitchen that we acquired here, and that groundhog came in here and chewed up the Lazy Susan. We'll be able to fix that. It's a little bit of redneck ingenuity, but just to show you part of the problems, and we'll show you here in a little bit how we handle those problems around the Ruble Ranch. All right, here's another problem spot here that we've had, the groundhog. We filled this in numerous times here. This is on the back side of this barn here. We're going to be fixing up and using this barn more and more, and we can't have big holes like that, or our cows are going to end up breaking their legs in there. And we've asked that groundhog nicely to vacate the premises, and he did not do that. We've got our surprise meat here today in our cooler here, and just to protect everything else, we have double bagged this meat here. This would be our groundhog, or also known as a woodchuck. A lot of my good friends in college, they double bagged their meat too, to make sure to keep it nice and safe. Here we're taking our groundhog or woodchuck, whatever you'd like to call it in your neck of the woods, out of the bags here. We have put it in a salt brine overnight. And once again, we have double bagged that meat to make sure that it didn't get in the other part of our nice handy dandy cooler that we have there. So next what we're going to do is turn our faucet on here, make sure, and wash as much as we can off of this here. Okay, here we've got our whole groundhog here, and we're going to go ahead and cut him in some smaller pieces here, so that way he'll fit in our pans a little bit better here. Get the front shoulder off. As my old science teacher, Jay Staker, used to say, it's just like Mom used to make. I'm making a video to show all the folks at home, so that way they're able to cook delicious groundhogs just like Daddy. I'll move it. You'll be able to watch when I do the stuff on the stove, okay? Now we're opening up the rib cage. So this will cook flatter.
Dad, I'm watching it on there.
How's it look, Saz? Does it look good?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, folks, we're going to go to our first round of seasoning here. So I'm going to go ahead and do the quarters first. We're using several different things here today. Some things that we have in here. We've got a ultimate rib rub. We've got some Cajun seasoning, and then our Tony Sachery's Creole seasoning. This is what a lot of times we use for our shrimp boils and things here. So we're just going to put a generous amount of all three of these things. This is on both sides of our quarters here. This is of our groundhog, so we got one little piece done there. Make sure to get the kids all involved when you're cooking groundhog here. It's a fun project for the entire family. Right, guys?
She's trying to take your stuff.
Yep. No, let's not take Daddy's stuff. Okay, here.
You want to look at the camera?
So we're seasoning everything.
See, take that. See, he's watching ya. That camera's watching ya. Let me. Yeah, come here. Come closer.
Just be real generous here.
No, stand on that stool.
Okay. Get some nice seasoning on both sides of this groundhog.
On both sides.
Both sides, that's right. You want to make sure you season that groundhog
Both sides.
really good, yeah. Guys, how should we season our groundhog?
Like, you should probably put some camera here.
We should. Well, we got the seasoning here, but what I'm saying is, we should put a lot of seasoning on, don't you think, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, now we've got that seasoned here. We'll go ahead and switch our cameras around. Okay, here, so we moved over to our next part, and after watching a few other groundhog videos, cooking videos, and things, I have decided that this is how I'm going to prepare mine. So I've got my cast iron here, lighting 3 different spots. We got a pretty good sized groundhog here today, so we're going to need 3 pans. We're going to kind of render it down just a little bit before we move to cooking it.
Yep.
Cooking it down below here.
Yep.
Put our pieces of groundhog down. Right, Silas?
Yep.
This is some of the meat from the sides of the groundhog.
That looks good. Let's pour on them too.
We're going to go ahead and keep seasoning this as we go. Just nice and hot on that skillet. Putting our rib rubs on here, and our Weber New Orleans Cajun. This is what we happen to have here. And then our Tony Sachery's. We're going to go ahead and turn these over. So we're just trying to get a little of the grease to cook off these things here. Get this kind of sort of seared in. Here, Silas, go ahead and I'm gonna hold you. Smell it. Tell them what it smells like. Can you tell them? Smell it.
It smells good.
Smells good?
Yeah.
We're doing a good job with our groundhog.
Yep.
These things cook hot, and all we're trying to do is just sear and get a little fat off these things here before we go and put them in our Dutch oven here. Make sure we get these things flavored up nice and right. And once again, folks, we've cooked with cast iron a little bit here. First time with groundhog, but we really feel like we can cook about anything and make them taste good. Okay, folks, we're going to go ahead and get some of our seasoning and things put together here. This particular meat that we're using here, we haven't ate it before, but I'm sure that it'll have enough earthy flavor that we won't need any extra dirt in here to do that. I think that groundhog's going to have just enough of the right kind of flavor. This is one of my favorite knives that I like to use here. And what we're going to do, we're going to chop just the very top dry part of those onions off there. We're going to chop the tops up here. Throw these in the bowl here. I've got some bigger pieces. Got a little bit of the bulbs. These are going to be really, really strong. Then we have a little bit of rosemary. Silas, smell that. Tell everybody how good that smells. What do you think, Silas? Can you tell everybody at home how good it smells?
It smells good.
Okay, we're chopping up our rosemary. We got Mommy walking by.
We're doing a camera.
The egg bucket. This is our basil. Is that correct? Smell it. What's the basil smell like? Those we're actually going to leave full leaves of to give just a little bit more flavor. We got several basil in here. And this is our oregano. Is that correct?
Be thyme.
Oh, our thyme. Yes. Sorry, I grabbed the wrong weed. Is this our basil here? Some more basil.
That'd be oregano.
Oh, this is the oregano. Top on here. I know my spice is pretty good. We also have some chive. Ooh, lovely, lovely chive. Now this chive here, we're going to cut into some smaller pieces, and that's going to go well with our other onions and things that we have here. We're probably going to have to cook the groundhog down just a little bit more to get everything to fit in. We also have some, what is this, Silas?
Onion.
Grow this in our garden every year. No, it's yellow squash.
Squash.
Very important to have a balanced diet. And when you're eating groundhog, it's probably a good idea to have just a little bit extra fiber in that meal that you have. We also, besides having the basil and everything in here, and some more spices, we do have a tad bit of kale.
Kale.
Yep, and we also have some bay leaves in here. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse this kale off too. The kale we're actually going to add later because it won't need to cook as long as everything else. We're going to drain the excess grease out of our Dutch oven. Slightly warm. We don't like to put a whole lot of grease down the sink. This little bit won't hurt. Take a nice paper towel here. Just gonna get all that grease. Try to get that bottom nice and clean before we put our groundhog in and season it. Here. Now, For those of you at home, we don't have a real fancy cooking show here. In fact, this is our first production that we've done, and we thought groundhog would be a nice, interesting new topic. So, what we're going to do is we're going to put our groundhog pieces all back in here, layered in our Dutch oven. This section here would be the back and the ribs, and it's a little concave, so we're going to put that there so that way we don't have as much contact of the meat and the cast iron.
See.
So we've got the concave part in there, and when we put these in here, just for good measure, we're going to go ahead and hit them with our special spices. Once again, we're using some Weber New Orleans Cajun because that's what we had. Use some ultimate rib rub, and we've used several different kinds of rib rub, and then this Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning, which I like on everything, including popcorn. Okay, then we're going to put some of our legs in here, or quarters here, and we're going to season those as well as we go, right, Silas?
Yeah.
Because what? You can't ever have too much seasoning on this kind of stuff, can you?
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and throw that piece in there. But we also don't necessarily like wildlife tearing up our barns and getting underneath our porch. When they do, sometimes we humanely euthanize them and cook them up and eat them, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we got all these sitting in here seasoned, just kind of pre-cooked. Got a little bit of that fat and grease off that groundhog. Alright. Okay, we'll move this here a little closer so you can see, folks. Okay. Now, for our secret herbs and spices, we're going to start layering some of those in here. I'll put some of these bigger leaves off to the side for a second. Get down to our different types of onions. And our rosemary and thyme and basil. We're not going to be able to fit everything in this first go around, but we'll have some more chopped up here to add, so we make sure that we get the full flavor of all this stuff cooked into our groundhog, right, Silas?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, folks, here we're going to add one of our other ingredients. I've seen on a lot of these cooking deals, they wanted to make sure that you added some extra flavor in here. And what I'm doing is we've got a partial keg of dark beer, and we're going to make sure, and we're going to fill our pot up here. Just be real liberal here. There's not a ton of room where there is not a groundhog. We want to make sure we fill this all the way up. All right, looks like we've got that filled up with a little bit of dark beer. Make our groundhog just a little bit more moist. Okay, we got a nice bed of hot coals going on here. We're going to go ahead and set our Dutch oven up on top of that. We got our beer in there. As you can see, that's plumb full. It's just a little off center. And this time we're going to add some pine logs underneath here to give it a little bit more flavor, since we got our coals warm here, and we're going to let this cook all day long down here. The nice part is got an old house that doesn't seal up all the way here. We're downwind, and we'll be able to smell this cooking all day long up in there. A nice charcoal groundhog flavor. Just throw this wood in there.
Hey guys.
Get this fire started, and then we're gonna go pick some wild black raspberries so we have a nice pie to go along with our groundhog tonight. Here's just a little short clip here after we've restacked some of that pine wood underneath there. We're just gonna let that thing sit here and do its work. Let that beer and special herbs out of our garden and seasoning cook down in that groundhog. Okay folks, we're back to the groundhog cooking here. We're in the last stage. Got my lovely assistant Mila. She's been helping. We're cooking down here by our private beach here on our pond. Go ahead and pull that off. There. Now what we're going to do is we've got some kale that we wanted to throw in here. Got some really nice kale from our garden here today. We're going to let this get in here and simmer. We've also got some pieces of yellow squash and some onions here. We're going to let all that cook down. This will be kind of our final stage for our groundhog meal here today. Give us some extra fiber to go with our groundhog. Go ahead and make that fit. Now, all day here, we've been adding extra beer to the pot, using out of our keg that we had over there. And we've been adding wood to it, trying to keep a nice kind of even temperature here in our Dutch oven. Here, I'm just going to show you, in case you couldn't see here, I went ahead and I added some yellow squash in here, some more onions, and then we added our fresh kale in here. We're going to let that stuff kind of cook and wilt, steam in there, and this will be the last part of our special groundhog meal that we have here today. We're going to go ahead and let that simmer. Meanwhile, we're going to enjoy just a little bit of refreshments in the pond, and we're going to go swimming, aren't we guys?
Yeah!
Hey, can you guys wave to everybody?
Hi!
Can you say we're excited to eat some groundhog? We've been cooking it all day.
We're excited to eat some groundhogs!
Say we've been cooking it all day.
We've been cooking it all day!
Mila, can you say I love groundhog? Mila, can you say I love groundhog?
We love groundhogs, so yeah.
All right, folks, we're here to take our groundhog off the fire. It's been cooking all day here, about 6-7 hours. Now it's real important when you cook groundhog, make sure you've got a nice beverage to drink. Keep nice and cool. It's going to be an all-day project here, and it's always nice to make sure that you stay hydrated while you're doing this. We're going to take that Dutch oven lid off here. Okay, we're going to take off our kale that we've got. We've got the kale on top here. Boy, this stuff just smells amazing here, folks. Got some nice kale, and we got some yellow squash. And this groundhog now is literally falling off here. We're gonna be able to pull some bones out of this. Here we got some onions in here. We got all those different herbs that we had in here earlier in this groundhog meat. Stuff's just the perfect consistency here.
Yeah, it is. And I think our groundhog is going to be really good.
Oh, I think it's going to be more than good, Ava. I think everybody's going to watch this video, and they're going to be wanting to catch groundhogs themselves, aren't they?
Yeah. And it used to live like in their barn, yeah.
It used to live in our barn, and it was tearing stuff up. And so what did we do? We relocated that groundhog to heaven, didn't we?
Yeah, and then we took out the heart and the gut and that stuff.
We cleaned it up, and we made a Ruble Ranch delicacy out of that groundhog, didn't we?
Yeah, and so I'm so excited to eat the groundhog. Aren't you, Dad?
That's right. She's excited. You got a good Southern Iowa girl ready to eat a little groundhog. Okay, we're back here at the Ruble Ranch. We've got our groundhog. It's been cooking all day long here. We've cooked it 6-7 hours here. We're going to separate out some of the bones from some of the meat. Then we're going to put the bones over here. Got a little shoulder blade here. Don't touch, Silas.
We're gonna show them their house.
All right, we're just picking these bones out, and this stuff is so tender, folks. I mean, it is literally fell off the bone here.
Bones in there.
That's right. We got the bones in there. We're pulling the bones out. Got our nice tender groundhog meat. We're gonna put the entire bowl here is all groundhog and our spices and things that we've cooked up here. It's a pretty good sized bowl, as you can see. An awful lot of meat. All the bones have been taken out here, really nice. Now we're gonna do a little taste test. Silas, here we got some of our groundhog here. I'm gonna give you a nice little piece of groundhog. Tell me how good that groundhog is. Just take that and take a nice bite. We've been cooking that groundhog all day long. That's really good, isn't it? You want some more groundhog? We're gonna have it for dinner. Here you go. There you go.
That fits on your.
All right, I'm gonna have a little groundhog here too.
Is it a little chewy? Yeah. Tastes good.
Well, I tell you what, that falls right off the bone.
You know the
Super great.
herbs came out of
That's
my
some-
garden.
That's some really good groundhog. Okay, now folks, we've got Ava here. She's one of the pickiest eaters in the house here. We're gonna give her a little bit of groundhog meat here. We'll have her try that. She's gonna tell us how good that is. We've been cooking it on the fire all day long. Ava, look at that camera. Tell them how great that groundhog is. It's awesome, isn't it? Tell them. What does it taste like?
Really good.
It's awesome, isn't it? Tell them what it tastes like.
Chicken.
Tastes like chicken, but better. Doesn't it? How many stars would you get? Would you give that 10 stars? That groundhog 10 stars?
Oh, I'm going to get you.
Silas, would you give that groundhog 10 stars? You'd want to eat groundhog again, wouldn't you? Yep. Okay, here we've got our groundhog here. And then we've got it plated and want to show you kind of what we've got here. We have butter lettuce and spinach that we just picked out of the garden. We've got some shredded groundhog, and we have a little bit of kale and also some yellow squash with that. That's what we're going to have here for dinner here. Here's our butter lettuce and our spinach that we have here. Once again, our groundhog. We've got it plated with a little bit of cheese sauce on top. Enjoy. All right, folks, there you have it. The whole family here at the Ruble Ranch. Everybody loves the groundhog. We've been cooking it all day. It's probably going to be something that we're going to do quite often around here. That stuff just fell off the bone. You take a nuisance and then you get rid of it and you eat it. Awful good groundhog. Thanks again, everybody, for our Ruble Ranch video, our first installment of the Ruble Ranch Cooking Show.